DJ and PK, it's time to welcome Greg Wyshynski back to the show, senior NHL writer at ESPN. Greg, good morning.
Good morning. Greetings from Raleighwood here in North Carolina. It's a glamorous place. I know that the other city in this series gets a lot of shine for being glamorous, but let me tell you what. Raleigh, North Carolina, baby. That's the glitz and glamour in this series.
Well, we know when they wanted to go big time, Andy and Barney would go into Raleigh, and they'd party.
There you go. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. I've been thinking a lot about Mayberry lately because of the death of Ted Turner and the fact that the Andy Griffith Show when I was a kid would start at like 6:05 on Turner Broadcasting System. And the reason he did that is because he didn't want people flipping around the channel. So I've been thinking a lot about Andy and Barney lately, actually.
And Barney had to watch out because they say nothing good happens after midnight. I think for Barney, a lot of times nothing good happened when he went to Raleigh.
Well, a lot of good stuff happened for the Golden Knights last night when they went to Raleigh. Let me tell you that.
I would say a lot of good stuff happened to you. I'm sure you've covered good games, bad games, and mediocre games. That was pretty wild. Literally from the opening minute. And the thing that shocked me is these two teams defensively have been awesome. The last two series, I think Vegas given up 2 goals a game, and Carolina's given up less than that while going 12-1 in the Eastern playoffs. And then 9 goals? I mean, what the heck happened? Yeah. I mean, obviously there are a couple of really bad giveaways that you can't say, well, that's on the defense because the giveaways were horrific. But nonetheless, there were some major mistakes.
It's a combination of two things. I mean, I asked Seth Jarvis of the Hurricanes that question last night, like, did you expect there to be this much scoring? And he said, look, man, this is like 2 really good, deep offensive teams. Like we know what Vegas has, where they've got guys like Thomas Hertl and Mark Stone playing on their third line. But, Carolina was the best offensive team Rod Brindamore ever coached this season insofar as their offensive depth. So it was there on both sides to have this kind of game. But that being said, I think a lot of people expected game one at the very least to be a bit more of a chess match. And I think you had the other part of the equation last night, which is that the Golden Knights forecheck and pressure really rattled Carolina into making some regrettable mistakes all over the ice. And on the other side, as much as obviously Freddie Anderson had a rough go of it, giving up 5 goals, I thought Carter Hart was a sieve last night. Like, I was very unimpressed with the game that he had, and there were some goals that he let by that he probably should have stopped. So all those things combined for it to be an incredibly high-scoring game one, which, for those of you who wager out there, beat the over in the second period, which is not something that you'd expect between these two teams.
Yeah, that's funny when you say that in the second period. You look at now obviously we've been following Vegas very closely because that's going to be forever and ever the Mammoths' first playoff opponent. And, it was a tight series. It was fun. The last game got away a little bit, but, they were actually up in the series for a bit. And so we kind of think, oh, well, the Mammoth, man, they're going to end up giving them the best round or series. We'll see how it plays out. But Vegas, to me, with the coaching change, with just a few weeks to go, I'm wondering, how did they catch this lightning in a bottle like this?
So that's a great point, which is that it is lightning in a bottle, and I think that the Utah series might have been when they were the most vulnerable. Tortorella comes in with, what was it, like 8 games left in the season, and he takes over, he puts in his system. They're still learning it. They're still learning about each other. Carter Hart, I think, like I said, he had a rough ride last night, but his round one was his worst round. He's gotten progressively better as the playoffs have gone on. Torts came in at a time when things were starting to kind of trend in the right direction a little bit for Vegas, especially from a health perspective. The return of William Karlsson, their lineup, a guy that was one of the original Golden Misfits back when they were an expansion team, really kind of resets their lineup in a pretty great way. It allows Mitch Marner to play on the wing. Karlsson's a great two-way center. It really allowed them to sort of reset their lineup in the way that it should be. And so they're getting healthier. They're playing a little bit better. Torts comes in. He gives them the kick in the rear that they need to kind of focus on their details and play aggressive hockey. And again, like Utah caught them at the right time. I think the first round was when they were most vulnerable, but then you see what they did against Anaheim, and then obviously you see what they did against, half of Colorado, because the other half should have been in a hospital bed during that series with how many injuries they had. And then we see last night the trend continues.
There's a part of me that looks at this and thinks, well, Utah was basically in the middle of the standings in the regular season, and they didn't have any playoff experience. They got knocked out in the first round. There's clearly a tier of teams in the West that are better than them, and it's a long road to go. But then you watch what Vegas is doing, and you're thinking, how big is the gap given the random nature of the sport and the playoffs? We've seen hot teams before. Like, how far away are the Mammoth? I'm trying to read this.
Well, there is a gap, and I think one of the things that you heard from people after watching that Vegas series from around the NHL is, the size differential between Vegas and Utah and Vegas, some other teams in the West. I mean, if there's a trend in the NHL, it's this big physical team. Florida winning back-to-back cups with the way that they played, Vegas playing the way that they play with a bit of size and skill. And so, that's one thing that maybe Utah should take away from that series is just to kind of maybe get a little bit bigger. But the other thing that's really interesting about Utah right now, and if you want to use Vegas as the proxy for this, Vegas has built this team not through the draft and not through prospects, but by trading away all of those things to get elite players that are in their prime. And, one of the things that Bill Armstrong's going to have to kind of figure out is how much of this deep prospect pool will eventually bubble up to be on the Mammoth roster, and how much of it could he then turn around and trade to upgrade parts of his roster in the way that Vegas has been aggressive, and in some ways in the way that Carolina has been aggressive too in making some of those deals. So they're blessed with a lot of really good players down, in the minor leagues and college and Canadian junior. They're just going to have to start to figure out whether they're going to let these guys ripen and be part of the team at a low contract cost or turn them around into higher priced veteran players.
Of all the playoff sports that we have, the most fickle thing in terms of momentum, I think, is found in hockey. Get your opinion on it. We talk about momentum, but momentum can change so quickly in hockey. Is there really such a thing as momentum?
I think there is. And John Tortorella actually mentioned that in his press conference last night. Yeah, the idea that, and I think in his case, momentum is like, let's take care of these guys before they figure out what they did wrong. Carolina is a good hockey team. I mean, they were 12-1 in the Eastern Conference. They got out to that 2-0 lead last night. You could tell that they were rattled. You could tell that they were off their details, and there are things that they can clean up. And I think what Tortorella is saying is, momentum is on our side in the sense that we have a 1-0 lead. If we take a 2-0 lead back to Vegas, chances are we're going to win this series. But, now Carolina is going to have to really kind of dig in a little bit and figure out what was so magical about their run in the East, and can they replicate some of those things in this series against what is easily the best opponent that they've played. But again, like you said, I mean, momentum is a tricky thing in the NHL because it could carry you through a few games in a series, or it's something that a goaltender could stop with one great night. It's always a tricky thing to measure when you're in the playoffs.
And I would have thought that Carolina was doing exactly what they wanted. I mean, they just didn't allow Montreal to get that many shots off, and they held Vegas to 4 shots in the first period. So in a way, I think they have momentum. But does that come back to where you talk about big physical defense, gave them problems, they lost the puck in some really bad spots, and that's why the momentum flips so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, the game plan last night for Vegas was pressure them on the puck as much as you can, hit them as much as you can in their own zone, disrupt the way they break out of their zone. And they weren't doing that in the first 10 or 11 minutes of the game. And then John Tortorella kind of went up and down the bench and in a quite animated way gave his guys a refresher on what they should be doing in the game. And then, like you said, I mean, Carolina was definitely doing Carolina things in the first period insofar as the restriction on shots on goal. But then you look in the second period and all of a sudden, Vegas had crept within like 2 shots of Carolina for the game. And so things definitely turned as the game went on, and Carolina was unable to do the things that they usually do to dominate while Vegas exerted their will. And so it's going to be on Carolina to either figure out how to get back to that puck control, spend all game in the other team's zone kind of hockey, or they're going to have to figure out something tactically to not get rattled when Vegas is doing that to them.
I look at Carter Hart, and he's been something that people have pointed to as stabilizing Vegas as the season went on, right? And as I'm watching, and then boom, the goal right there off the bat, and then later on, I'm thinking this isn't one of his better games compared to what we've seen. But yet, after they take the lead, he gets that incredible save where he gets the glove on it and flips it up in the air. And I kind of thought, well, it wasn't his best game, but when he had to have it, he had it, right?
Yeah. And my mantra for the playoffs and goaltending is always like, you don't have to steal a series for me. You just have to not lose it for me, and so, there were moments last night where I thought Hart kept the Hurricanes in the game with some of the pucks he didn't stop. That one shot from Gostisbehere that went through a Vegas player's legs, that's almost an unscreened shot that he obviously should stop, and it nearly cost him the third period. But then he comes back and has that amazing save, obviously, on Jarvis later in the period when they needed it. And, beyond that, Mitch Marner with an incredible block with his skate in the waning minutes of the game to maybe prevent a goal. So you're right. I mean, essentially, the performance wasn't great. If you look at the analytics, he demonstrably had a worse game than Freddie Anderson, who I think his defense really let him down more than anything else. But he came away with the W, and he made the stops at the right time that they needed.
What adjustments do you expect in Game 2 from either team, or is it simply with Carolina more poise on the puck and Vegas just keep doing what you're doing, or are there going to be some wrinkles?
Yeah, I wonder if Carolina is going to tweak their breakouts a little bit, just try to change some things up tactically, because I think the Golden Knights have them game planned pretty good right now. Like I said, there are some things that are just going to get cleaned up naturally insofar as the nerves aren't going to be there. Maybe some of these guys aren't going to play as average games as they played in Game 1, knowing that the stakes are now even higher with the Golden Knights leading 1-0 in this series. I think the pickle for Carolina right now is there's one part of their team that's really not working, and that's their top line with Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, and Seth Jarvis. They've been able to get away with that for 3 rounds, basically, because of how good the rest of the team is playing. But, last night, that outside of that one shift in the third where Hart makes that great save, they were a complete non-factor, and in fact were ineffective, giving up the puck after a minute and, less than a minute in the zone and turning the puck over. I mean, they were really bad. And the problem for them is there's really kind of no way to fix that line with breaking it up, because you don't want to mess with your checking line. You don't want to mess with Taylor Hall's line, because those have been great. And so those 3 have to kind of figure it out. And Rod Brindamore said last night, you need your top guys to hit the scoreboard. It's not good enough to be putting shots on goal or whatever. You need results, and that line has not gotten results for 4 rounds now.
You look at one of the stats you had in your story, 75%. You win, you go on here. So are you favoring Vegas? You still think it's see what happens?
I still think it's see what happens. I mean, I picked Carolina in 6. I'm not feeling great about it after Game 1, if we're being honest. But I'll stick with it. I covered Carolina for the last 2 rounds. I think they've shown a lot of resiliency. I mean, don't forget they lost Game 1 of the Montreal series in the conference final pretty spectacularly. And that was one where you're like, oh my God, is this a fraud, or are we watching a team that is going to see their fortunes change? I still think they did enough last night in a positive way that it encourages you they can figure some things out. I love the way that they battled back in that game and, knotted up the score a bunch of times. But this is a different, they talked about it before the series that this is going to be a different challenge. And Jarvis said it last night. It's the Stanley Cup final. It should be your toughest series. And it clearly is. And they're going to have to really adjust to, depth of talent on the Golden Knights side, and also just how they can really disrupt what you do with that Tortorella system and the way that they pressure the puck.
It's interesting you say it's clearly the toughest series, because if you look at the regular season results, I mean, the East was so good with 5 teams over 100 points. And Vegas, I don't even know if they knew they were getting in the playoffs a month before the playoffs started. But here we are. You just think it's hands down this is the Carolina's biggest test.
It is, and here's the thing: like, there's a lot of people in the West that didn't watch the Hurricanes at all in the playoffs that really think they got an easy ride, and I'm like, no, man. Like, that Ottawa team in the first round, people thought they could be a dark horse in the East, and Carolina swept them. And then the Flyers aren't great, but they had the league's hottest goalie at the time, and they got swept. And then Montreal comes hopping in, and they're on fire. They won 2 consecutive 7-game series. And after a bad first game that came after the longest layoff between 2 rounds the NHL has seen in 107 years, so they're a little rusty. Carolina kicked their teeth in for 4 games. So, like, I still am hopeful that we're going to see a bounce back here and have a good long series between these 2 teams, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's been some brevity in these playoffs insofar as the series go. But last night was discouraging. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, the depth and the aggressiveness of that Golden Knights team and the swagger with which they play, I think, were things that Carolina maybe wasn't prepared for.
When I think of where you're at in the country, I think of college basketball and probably auto racing. I'm wondering, what's the level of buzz over this series? Is it just taking over?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is a place where they had a moment of silence before one of the games for Bush, and then they had, the arena is literally on the NC State campus here in Raleigh. The buzz is interesting because, like, I think when you go through some of these neighborhoods and you're visiting businesses, it doesn't feel like it does in some towns where it's inescapable, when you see flags all over the place and people in jerseys and stuff. But then, like, once you get to the arena, it feels like you're in the greatest hockey town ever. I mean, everybody gets there early to tailgate. People love this team. The arena is loud. You could probably count on one hand the number of Golden Knights fans that were in the building last night, which isn't often the case when you have a Stanley Cup final. You usually have people spending thousands of dollars to get into these games, but it wasn't the case last night. So I like this market a lot, and it, there's a certain amount of like sentimentality I have towards Rod Brindamore and his team. I mean, he's coached here for 15 years as an assistant and as a head coach, and that was after winning a Stanley Cup as a player in Carolina. Like, I think there's some stat where, like, there's only been 2 playoff wins that this franchise has had that he hasn't been a part of. Like, it's crazy. So, there's a connection between this coach and the community, a connection between this team, the community, and it's definitely on display on a game night here.
And yet, you're going to get out of town just as it hits 90, and you're going to fly to Vegas, and it's going to be 105 degrees or whatever. So you say the sentimentality, but
listen, I live in Brooklyn. Summer in New York is lovely, but it's also like walking through a waterfall as far as the humidity goes. So, like, I have never had an issue with the dry heat in Vegas. Like, it feels like a sauna to me. Like, it feels so nice. And so I'm a big Vegas guy to begin with. Like, I've always kind of, like, connected with that town for whatever reason. It's been kind of a fun thing to have it be such a part of my life, because the Golden Knights made the conference final in 5 of their 9 years of existence. And again, you talk about the environment here. I mean, as you guys know, the environment in Vegas for those games is just tremendous. So I'm looking forward to games 3 and 4 at the very least. Who knows how many we'll have after that, but we know there's at least 2 in Vegas coming up.
I'm looking, Greg, at a list from people from Matawan, New Jersey, and you're right there in terms of fame. Maybe Jim Jeffcoat. Do you remember him?
Jim Jeffcoat, yeah. Jim
Dallas
Jeffcoat
Cowboys.
is
Arizona State.
Yeah, and I believe they count Sonny from WWE back in the Attitude Era as being part of Matawan, I think, last time I checked. Yeah, no, I now here's the thing, though. I got an email from my old high school last year that said I had been nominated for my high school's Hall of Fame.
Nice.
And I had to put all this stuff together. It took a while. I think I might have missed a deadline, but I sent it in. I never heard back. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not that prominent at the end of the day.
I think you are. My high school doesn't even know I'm alive, so
Well, if you get in, man, my best man at my wedding got into the West Deptford, New Jersey, his high school Hall of Fame, and
There you go.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a big soccer coach.
I assume that it's like baseball. There's a big room with plaques and people walk around, silently in awe of the greatness of the alumni of Matawan Regional High School. But I mean, they never wrote back unless it's in my spam folder somewhere. They never wrote back. So who knows?
Well, Greg, we appreciate the time and enjoy the series and enjoy Vegas.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right. Greg Wyshynski, senior NHL writer at ESPN. And what great state is he from, PK?
Jersey, man. And he has a thing for Vegas? Yeah, because you're from Jersey.
I've connected with that town for whatever reason. Probably the food and the Osmond shows would be my guess. There's an outside chance it's the gambling, possibly, theoretically.
I saw Donnie Marie at their show.
Is there more access to golf in Vegas than in Jersey? I mean, there's a lot of people in Jersey. Is it like L.A., not a lot of courses, hard to get on?
Vegas golf is so dang expensive.
Yeah, everything in Vegas. It used to be Vegas was cheap because they wanted to get you there, and they got over that now, everything.
There's one course in Vegas, and I don't know why, but in their computer system, they have me as a resident. So they give me the resident rate.
All right. Guess where you play
Can
a
you
lot.
make a tea time for me?
And when in doubt, I have my wife go in, and she has a better chance of sweet-talking them into that we're residences. Yeah. But Mesquite will give you the St. George people the Nevada resident if you say you're from St. George. We found that out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because obviously they
You
draw
get
a
to
lot of
count as
people.
local.
Yeah, I mean, they probably draw as many people from Utah as they do from Nevada.
Sure.
I mean,
they basically sit halfway between St. George and Vegas, so.
Yeah, and there's a lot of courses there.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, it's Win Tickets Wednesday. We got tickets to see Britt Floyd in concert at the Maverick Center Saturday. We'll give them away on the other side of this break. Jerry Brenham, Houston Cougars football sideline reporter and host on ESPN 97.5 in Houston, will join us at the top of the hour. Stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoe.
Look, private equity doesn't like to add costs. They like to limit costs because they have a bottom line that they have to hit. I just hate when you've got somebody who has been working in the marketing department forever or who's been a sports information director forever, and they're doing their job and they're busting their butt and they're trying to tell good stories, and those are the guys that are going to get affected.
And to me, it's just a direct response to BYU having all the money they need at their disposal, a built-in way to fund the program. There's nothing about this deal that screams win to me. I don't like the feeling of it. Matt Hayes summed it up best at the end of his article. He said, this is the same Utah Athletic Department that wanted so badly to push out football coach Kyle Whittingham at the end of a 10-win season, but was willing to pay him $13.5 million over the next 2 years to do so.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We'll win a pair of tickets to see Britt Floyd in concert at the Maverick Center Saturday. It's this Saturday. Caller 12, 801-575-ZONE.
June 6th?
Yes, you're right. You are correct.
Football's going to be here before you friggin' know it, man. I just got my approval. Somebody in the company obviously credentialed me for the Big 12 media.
Lloyd was working on that Friday. I bet it was Lloyd.
I got approved.
Nice. Go get him.
Me and Barry Trammell, the geezers. Oh, I don't have the white hair. He sticks out.
Yeah.
Like the proverbial sore thumb. At the Star in Dallas, or a little north of Dallas, Frisco, but it's where the Cowboys do their stuff. They got a 12,000-seat stadium there.
Question of the morning. All about tonight in the NBA Finals, Game 1. How can any right-thinking Utah Jazz fan root for the Spurs to win another NBA championship?
Can't do it. No can do.
Mensch at Supermensch. I'll take the Spurs winning 100 times out of 100 rather than watch that human pustule and stain on humanity James Dolan hold up the O'Brien Trophy. Sounds pretty personal with the owner there.
They did it in spite of him, not because of him.
There are the old George Steinbrenner theory has been recycled. That Steinbrenner went away from the Yankees and was always there urging them, and they always trading away the future for the present, which was never good enough, and Steinbrenner got suspended. And that's when they held on to all their young guys and built the core that won 3 titles in a row and 4 out of 5. And Dolan is responsible for a lot of entertainment here in Utah. A lot of Utahns have gone to the Sphere, and he spent a couple of years building that, and the theory is he was distracted, and that's why the Knicks stopped doing nonsensical stuff and painting themselves into salary cap corners.
Okay, well.
So to your point, despite him.
I look at the product on the floor, and it's pretty good. I look, to me, my NBA is all viewed in the prism of the Jazz. That's what I'm paid for.
Totally get that.
And so having the Spurs win so young, so early, it scares me. Now, I want to see how New York guards him. There was talk, I was listening on the NBA Network this morning to try to get some stuff. And they were talking about, it's a very limited sample, but Robinson gave Wembanyama some trouble in that NBA Cup, and then when they played once in New York, we'll see if that matters, if that's something that can work to New York's advantage. And I would be, in a sense, if the Spurs do win, it's like, all right, Jazz, there's your obstacle. How are you going to beat them? And you're going to throw out a bunch of tall dudes, assuming Kessler's going to resign. Right now, if I'm betting, Kessler resigns and they draft Darren Peterson. I think that's
the most probable.
I think they have
come to terms with
and they're fine with it.
Right. Yeah.
He has the potential to be a major player.
The price to move up to get AJ. Well, first off, they figured the Wizards want AJ. There's that. And then the price to move up to get him is going to be exorbitant, and so they don't want to pay that. And so drafting Peterson at 2. And something could happen. You're not reporting this.
And this is today.
Right, it's
today. We still got 3 weeks to go.
Sure. And people get to change their mind. Yeah. New info.
I think they're fine with drafting Peterson. Everyone loves his talent, so that's not breaking news.
When Austin was on with us a while ago, he was saying, looking forward to getting the health reports on players. And he said it generically, but you're like, well, what? I mean, he wants to see everybody. They're going to pour over everybody. But who do you think he really wants to see?
Yeah, I think.
Who does he have the most questions about?
I think they would do their research probably on like 5 to 7 guys, knowing that, once you get a little lower, there's probably not going to happen. But who knows? Somebody could offer you some outrageous deal that puts you in that position, so you have to be prepared for that. It's like when you do a talk, you prepare. I've had to do 20-minute talks. Well, you prepare for 45 to an hour. You don't use it all, but you're still prepared for it. So you're ready to go. You don't want to be left short. That's what they're doing, and they're not going to use it all, obviously, and it's going to come down to who does the Wizards take, and maybe the Wizards come off of DeBonsa because there's still time to go. I don't have any sources in Washington. I could probably call somebody, but see what happens here. And I think that the Jazz right now re-sign Kessler, and get Peterson in there and go with Markkanen and Jackson and George and Bailey, and then we'll figure out what other moves they make and which of those young dudes can be in the rotation, or younger guys, I should say, and away we go. And now you've got a measuring stick. You probably have it either way with the Spurs, but certainly if they win it in dominant fashion, well, I mean, you're going to have to roll up the sleeve type of thing there and shoot for that. And, I don't think that they're going to be beating the Spurs in the playoffs in the 27 season, but let's see what happens down the line. I don't think it's unreasonable. And maybe it's just because I want it. I want it to be. And I tend to do this. I tend to overestimate the locals a little bit. But what the Jazz can put out there has got me really excited to see what can develop. What are the possibilities?
I get why you say I don't think they're going to beat them in 27. But last year, at this point, when the Thunder were winning games but hadn't won the title yet, there's a whole thought, well, if they get this, they're so young, they could go on this huge roll. And a year later, a young team on its way up, coming together very quickly, beats them. So I wouldn't sit here and pick the Jazz to beat it either, but given the current era of the NBA we're in, and given your constant admonishments, probably with at least a kernel of truth to them, that I shouldn't worry so much about history, the rules have changed on the court, and the rules have changed off the court with a cap. It's just harder to keep teams together, and it's harder to, there's going to be 8 champions in 8 years. And part of it is the fickle nature of the three. You can analyze and logic everything out and space the floor, but sometimes it doesn't go in. And also, we're seeing more injuries than ever. Sometimes you don't have your team together, which to a degree the Thunder didn't have, and to a degree the Denver Nuggets had a problem with that along the way here. We thought when they won, they had a chance to win more. It didn't seem to be any reason they couldn't, but they didn't. There was some thought that Giannis and the Bucks might get a second one. They're going to be in the mix.
We always think that.
I know. So I wouldn't sit here and say no guarantees on what's going to happen next year. This year alone, the Thunder were supposed to be set up to get a second one. They have a little bad luck. The Spurs come along. I know. I totally agree. And the injuries were all over these playoffs. It wasn't just the Thunder who have them. When you have them, who you're playing, which guy is it? Is it short run or long? The Spurs had some injuries, but they got their guy back. And then Fox hit some shots.
Sure. And they can say, well, wait a second, we had injury too. I understand that.
Right, but they got him back.
They got him back in time, and Williams never came back, and then Mitchell goes down.
Yep.
And then you're out. And, you don't want to put too much stock in role players, but, role players matter. The Bulls won titles on role players hitting huge shots. So and Robert Horry made a legendary career hitting big shots.
And no role players went with SGA in Game 7. He had a fantastic Game 7, but they just didn't have the second or third scorer, somebody chipping in 18, 21, whatever. They didn't have it.
Jordan used to call it his supporting cast. I can remember in his finals when he won in 1991, which is approximately, 35 years ago?
Exactly, 35 years ago.
I know. That's amazing to me. and I was there covering it, a younger guy, obviously, and I wrote a whole piece for the Daily Breeze on his supporting cast. Mm-hmm. And those guys matter. And, of course, with Jordan's talent, everyone was a supporting cast. Even if you were a Hall of Famer, Pippen was a supporting cast, which I think got under his skin, but nevertheless he was. Instead of relishing it, and we saw you were watching the dance, you said, was whatever episode they were showing. Obviously, that was something that to this day bugs him, but not everybody can be the star. And because Jordan's star shines so brightly, Pippen's was dulled a little bit. But those are first world problems. I want to get to, let's see what the Spurs do, and then get the Jazz against them and see how the Spurs react to all this length that they're going to have. And if you get Darren Peterson, I believe you can get a premier shot maker. And wow, I 50?
50 what?
50.
50.
Wins.
Oh. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's in play. That should absolutely be
that's
discussed.
A major jump.
That should be a goal. I totally agree.
But, you're adding
you've been
two major pieces.
Kessler's out all year injured. Jackson comes in midseason, only plays 2 games, and you're hiding Markkanen. That's a lot of height and a lot of size in a sport where it matters.
I know.
And
Bailey's got height and length and all that. He's on the come. He's what is he? 35%, 40% maybe of what he can become. And what can Keontae do to follow up an outstanding season? And just his body language, the way he was out there thinking, hey, I belong. I'm a man here. This is my place. I'm as good as whomever. You just see it in his eyes and the way he's been carrying himself. And that I see no reason why that subsides. Maybe it doesn't manifest itself to the level that it did because the team will be better and he might not have as many opportunities. But I don't care about stats. I care about winning.
That'd be the best possible scenario is the one you're describing right now. If he doesn't care about the stats, he cares about just be efficient with the shots you get.
Right.
If the FGAs are down, so what? If
you'll have an opportunity. You're going to be a player. You're not going to be some dude who's coming off the bench and can't do anything. And plus, if I get Peterson, well, that lights a fire under the guy too, man. Hey, over here, man. We sent you back, and you brought us back somebody who's after your position.
But also, thanks to positionless basketball, you don't have to get all petty. Just be really good and play the two of you together.
Right, but
Markkanen can play more minutes at the 4, backing up Jackson. Maybe Jackson's playing a few more at the 5, not a lot, but some. Maybe Ace Bailey's playing more 3, and you guys are out there together. I mean, there's lots of possibilities. But I get it. They are similar. There's a resemblance to their game, their size, who needs the ball, who needs the shots. I mean, yeah, we can see all that playing out. But at the same time, if you're both really good, okay.
Yeah, that's
you
a
can
great
figure that
problem
out.
to have.
Yeah, you can figure that out, and you can figure it out pretty quickly.
Will Hardy to
he
make that sure that everything meshes. I'm so excited at the opportunity to bring Darren Peterson in here and be a part of this thing because I think Darren Peterson's game. I talked about how George may be, or Ace Bailey may be 35, 40%. Well, obviously at the pro level, Darren Peterson is 0% because he hasn't played. But what he can become to what he is right now, I think that there is a quantum leap there. And maybe I'm going way over the top on this, but I think he can be a premier player as a wing guy in this league in 3 to 5 years.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is game 1 tonight. You want the Spurs beaten. No reason to create a beast in the West.
Well, I do have a little bias in my New York Knick background. It's not like I'm a hardcore Knick suffer.
Yeah, but you got warm feelings from when you were 9 or 10 or 11 or whatever you were running around.
I do. Yeah. I do. I mean, Walt Frazier was where it's at when I was a kid. Even then, when you're 10 years old, you don't know what cool is, but I knew he had it.
The secret weapon tonight. OG Anunoby. Now, there are multiple stories. I don't know who to credit for digging up these stats, but if you dive into the analytics, I'm at dailyknicks.com right now, because why wouldn't I be? That nobody has had more success defending Wemby if they've matched up with him on 100 possessions. You know, they break it down possession by possession, who's guarding Wemby. And nobody's had more success. So is that some kind of secret weapon? And the thing is, you don't have to lock a guy down. So don't even get into that discussion. Nobody can stop him. You don't have to stop him. But if he goes for 40, you're in trouble. You know, if he goes for 25, maybe you got a chance. So really, it's about if you could just impact a couple possessions a quarter, that might be the edge in beating them. And that's, I think, what they should be hoping for.
No, I get the point that you're making.
Out there.
But at the same time, I think when we look at Wemby's career, when it's done, we're going to find the guys who had most success were when he was 21, 22. And as he got older and got better, they didn't have as much success.
Yeah, certainly I could see that. Yeah, and I think even inside a series, the stats are great, so 100 possessions or 100-plus possessions. Okay, so what happened on those possessions? Because guaranteed the Spurs coaching staff has this. And were there too many run in one part of the floor? Did they not try to exploit some other situation? There are guys you set up for shots by putting them on the weak side and letting the defense get in a scramble and getting the ball to them. There's other guys you want to have the ball in their hands running a pick and roll. And then the difference, with handoffs, that can be a little trickier for some guys to defend. And coaches take deep dives into all of this stuff. And so inside of that, why did he have success in 100 or 125 or 150 possessions, whatever it was? Why did he have that success? And did he have the same amount of success? I mean, they'll be tweaking all that stuff.
I want to see the Spurs have a bunch of athletic wing guys, how they defend Brunson and what Brunson does to get himself free with his ability and his knowledge.
He'll push off.
But he's not that strong against guys that are bigger.
He knows how to bump.
He can nudge.
Exactly. But he knows how to
not push.
He knows how to bump and push off. Not a lot. He's not big enough to throw you to the ground, but just so that you can't quite gather yourself to jump or jump as high. And it gives him just enough. It's super, super savvy. I mean, he's got the microcomputer upstairs figuring all that stuff out. You don't get where he's gotten, the NBA Finals, 20 points a game, at 6'2", unless you've got a real good feel for all that stuff.
Yeah, he's a master.
He's got to be at the top of his game because, to your point, yes, that's.
Oh, he must be.
That has been. Everyone talking about the Spurs is like, did they finally have enough athletes with enough size to run enough people at Brunson to slow him down? Again, you don't have to stop him.
Well, potentially they do. But how does Mike Brown and his guys get Brunson in a position to overcome it? That's a little chess match thing there because, as we've been talking about, the Spurs are an assembly line of 6'5".
So, at Brunson at 6'2", is going to be playing against bigger guys every possession, but guys who will play him a little differently, who are a little different.
And who doesn't want Brunson to succeed? He's a second-round pick.
Absolutely.
Now, he's early second round.
And I think people root for the little guys. I pick against them all the time, but don't think I'm rooting against them. I wish Steve Nash had won the title. I wish John Stockton had won the title. I wish Gary Payton had won in his prime with Seattle.
Steve Nash to win.
There you go, the suspension.
Yeah. And San Antonio needs to pay for that.
I think that eventually these guys.
Yeah.
Some of them.
I didn't say guys. I said San Antonio.
Right. What year was that? Was that
It was a while ago.
It was either 05 or 07.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't. I just think some of these players may not have been born.
Doesn't matter. I said San Antonio needs to pay for it. The entire city. Cisneros
Alamo
needs
Heights.
to pay for it.
Feel the pain.
Popovich needs to pay for it.
Okay, that one. Yeah, there we go. It's all about Wemby. They've broken down Wemby's numbers in wins in the playoffs. Wemby scores 28 points a game and losses 14. And wins he has 12 boards and losses he has 8. And wins he shoots 46% from 3 and losses he shoots 39. Oh, excuse me, he shoots, start again. His shooting percentage goes from 55 down to 39. The three-point percentage goes 46 down to 18. So Wemby is night and day different in wins and losses. Slow him down. How can you do it?
Pray.
Okay. DJ and PK, when we come back, spring football tour. We're going to Houston. Cougars coming off a good year. Can they up the ante? Houston to the conference title game. Houston to the playoff. We'll talk with Jeremy Branham, Houston Cougars football sideline reporter and host on ESPN 97.5 in Houston, next.